And then when it comes to PHEX, I would be very, very concerned if you thought you were going to try to do any kind of ratio trading with your PHEX bag, because in my mind, HEX has the most opportunity in this bull cycle, even over 1000x in Pulse and 1000x, potential 600 to 1000x in PulseX, like plus even higher on Pulse potentially. I still think from the bottom in this HEX price, we can go with 10,000x. Not maybe within 1 to 2 cycles. I think HEX can do another 10,000x.
And why do you think that? Because I know a lot of people are, well, you hear a lot of people talk about, okay, well, it's cycle 2 for HEX, right? So usually cycle 1 performs the best. I know HEX is a different beast, but why do you believe that HEX is going to do another 10,000x in the next
I don't know that
cycles?
for 100% that it's going to do that, but I think that it's definitely very possible, like that I would, because there's the yield mechanic there. There's no extra work required for you to earn yield. And this world is starved for yield. And if people in the regular, like, look, banks are failing all around us. The dollars, your purchasing power is getting destroyed every day. What are you going to do? Hold a lump of gold in your safe? Like, no, you're going to look for, no middlemen, no counterparty risk yield somewhere. And we already know that the law of cryptocurrency is that when green candles form, other green candles form. People chase green candles. And once HEX gets to $1, which isn't 1000x, that's only what is that, like a 12, 13, 14x away, like easily attainable for HEX after doing a 10,000x, right? We've already been halfway there before. Once it gets there, that's when people are going to get it. And so it's all those new people coming in to buy $1 million of HEX, like at $1, that have expendable money, that now that it's an established, legitimate option for yield, that it'll push then the price even higher, $10, $20 potentially this cycle or next. And then that floor that we come back down after the next 95% correction is sitting on 70 cents to $1. And at that level, there's meaningful yield there inside of this immutable contract for everybody, right? Because at these prices, it's really just a game for the first 1,000 guys that have the biggest bags right now. But at $1, all of a sudden, you open the doors up for 10,000 people. And that's a lot more people saying good things about it, and that have their lives been changed by this thing. And again, you can't underestimate the power of when something's parity with $1, because that's just people's mental spaces based around the cost of $1, right? Like, most people don't go much farther than that. They know how much like a 24 pack of beer costs, or they know how much like McDonald's costs, or they know how much a gas tank to fill up their gas tank costs. And that's all based in dollars, not fractions of pennies, right? So it's like, once the game can be understood by the masses, it will be adopted by the masses. And now you have a chain and Pulsechain where it's affordable to transact. And that's not even accounting for the fact that you can get all of this new money to flood into Pulsechain. And by consequence, HEX can benefit in price performance, because we're the ones holding all the PulseX and HEX anyways. Hexicans sacrifice the most for all these things. So we get that already. So all we need is the new money to come into the ecosystem, and then it just turns into this self-reinforcing loop. You add other elements like Hedron and ICOSA into the mix, and it just creates even more opportunity for the crypto elite.
I think it's a perfect way to transition. Well, one thing I want to add, because I'd love to transition to Hedron and ICOSA on that note, but one thing that's important that I keep thinking about too is, well, if we're going to have 2 hexes, we're going to have EHEX and we're going to have PHEX, or Pulsechain HEX and Ethereum HEX. If you're comparing PulseX and Pulsechain to EHEX and PHEX, and you've received the copy, you don't need to necessarily perform the same as Pulse and PulseX in order to match their gains with both of the EHEX and the PHEX combined. So this is something that I think is really interesting, and what I've seen a lot of people discount is the fact that you're getting a copy of something that could not only keep up with Pulse and PulseX, but possibly even overperform, and you just got a free copy of it. And so, yes, maybe Pulse and PulseX individually outperforms either Pulsechain HEX or Ethereum HEX. But as soon as you get half the gains on both of those two combined of whatever Pulse and PulseX does, you're breaking even with the gains. And as soon as it creeps over that 50% mark of what you've achieved in the Pulse and PulseX price, now you're actually winning in comparison to both of them, just like that. So I think that's a really important point. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
And I haven't thought about that before in that way, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's just good to hear it. It's refreshing, because you're right. What you just said is it validated my point that all the hexes have to do combined is 5,000x on each chain, and you've effectively got a 10,000x.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's like, it's so much more achievable when you put it like that.